Hello and welcome to another episode. In today's episode, I am going to be explaining what is a function in JavaScript. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so to get started in today's episode with functions, I need you to open the same three websites that we have been using so far, which is w3schools.com. You're going to be using MDN, and you are going to be using the same website that we have been coding so far with. Okay, so I also have that open in my source code, of course, in here. Now, what I am going to do right now, first and foremost, is tell you that on W3 Schools, you have to jump into the JavaScript section and you have to scroll down to where it says JS functions. And then on MDN, all you have to do, if let's say that you are in JavaScript, you go to this search box and you type in functions. Okay. So if you type in function, just the word function, you will get the first result. That's what you're going to click. And then here, it's going to give you a brief explanation of a function in an object. So I just want you to click this link right here that says functions. And that is going to throw you to the functions overview. Okay, so let's read a little bit first in what is a function in MDN, and then we're going to jump into W3 Schools. So generally speaking, a function is a program, is a subprogram that can be called by a code, external or internal in the case of a recursion, to the function. Like the program itself, a function is composed of a sequence of statements called by the function body. The values can be passed to a function as parameters, and the function will return a value. Okay, so that's just some theory in order for you to be aware of. I recommend you to just go ahead and take a look at this article and read a little bit more so that you can become more familiar in how you can define functions and the multiple things that you can do with it, because this video, I'll keep it short and straight to the point. Okay, so let's jump into W3 Schools now and let's see what W3 Schools says. So in W3 Schools, it's easier. A JavaScript function is a block of code designed to perform a particular task. A JavaScript function is executed when something invokes it. So now let's talk in the real world. What is a function, you may ask? In the real world could be, let's say that you want to eat a pizza, right? And you want to cook the pizza, right? So in order for you to cook the pizza, there are a couple of things that you have to do. You have to probably go and buy flour. You have to go ahead and actually buy tomatoes, the salsa. You need to learn how to bake the pizza. And then once you do all of that, you will have your pizza ready in order for you to eat it, right? So that's just a whole bunch of instructions, a whole bunch of things that you have to do in order for you to cook the pizza. So if you had a function in the real world, you simply, let's say that you have a robot, right? And you can program that robot to do the pizza for you. So then probably you're going to configure that robot to cook your pizza, giving it a set of instructions, right? And then the next time that you want to cook a pizza after you have configured a robot, you simply will tell the robot, hey, robot, cook a pizza, right? And then whenever he hears the word cook a pizza, then he knows that he's going to follow that set of instructions in order to make your pizza. And then you'll have your pizza ready in order for you to eat it, right? So that is what a function is pretty much a block of code with instructions to perform an action, right? To perform something. And you have to give it a name. Like in the instance of the robot, we call it cook a pizza. So you have to give it a name in order for that function to be called or for that function to be performed. So I hope that makes sense. But if you have questions, you can always leave them in the comment section below. Okay. So let me show you now in JavaScript and in the code what is a function. We're going to be taking a look at the function syntax right now so that you don't get confused. Okay. So here is a function example in W3 School. You see this is a function. So let's take a look at the syntax first so that you can understand what all of this is. So a JavaScript function is defined with the function keyword. That's the first thing that you need to know. You have to use the function keyword in order to make a function. Now, then it's followed by the name, which is this portion right here, followed by parentheses, which are these two parentheses that you see here, right? Now, the parentheses may include a parameters or names separated by commas, right? So we have here one parameter, second parameter, and then a third parameter. So if you want to add some parameters inside of your code, you can do so. Inside of the parentheses, you can do so using a parameter, which could be a name of something, and then a comma, right? Now, this name right here, I'm going to explain that in just a moment. But this name right here, it's like a variable, okay? And then after you have input those that name, the parentheses, then you are going to use curly brackets. Now remember, this is a block. I already explained what a block is in our previous chapters, so you can go ahead and actually, go through it again in case you don't remember. So this is a block, and whatever it's inside of the block is going to be the instruction of what we want to happen when this function is called. Okay, so that's the syntax in order for you to create a function. Now, let's go ahead and actually do it into our code. We are going to invoke a function, and I am going to type in a very easy function that you can follow along. Okay, so let's go back here to our source code, and I am going to pull up also our website here. I already have the console open. So let's say here that we want to use a function. We're going to create a function. Now, first we have to give it a name, right? So I'm going to name my function, say hello, okay? And then I am going to open parentheses, and then I am going to open curly brackets. Now, inside of the parentheses, you can have or cannot have a parameter. That's up to you, okay? If you want to add parameters inside of the parentheses, then you can do so. If not, if you don't want to, then you don't necessarily have to. But I will explain you the cases where you really will want to use parameters in here. In this case, since I just want to use this code to say hello, this function to say hello, I am not going to use any parameters, just so you can see a simple function, okay? So inside of the curly brackets is where I will give the instructions in what to do whenever I say hello. So function inside of the curly brackets, let's console.log, and then in parentheses, I will say hello world. Okay, just simple as that. And let me close that. Perfect. Now I'm going to hit save. Now there is something that I want you to take a look at. If I hit save right now and I hit refresh, see how say hello, it's not in the console right now, even though I created the function and I put console.log hello world. Well, the reason why that happened is because I am adding console.log inside of this curly brackets. And this is considered a local scope. So anything that I type inside of this brackets will not show outside of the world. Let's say because it's in a local house, as an example, right? So anything that I type in this house will only happen inside of this house. And it'll only be reflected to the world whenever I call it or whenever I ask for that function to happen, right? So let's say that I want to show it to the real world. Then the way that you call a function is simply by using this portion right here, which is in parentheses, okay? So if I want to say hello, I am going to say to my code, say hello, and then use the parentheses, okay? And then I always close this. I mean, there's really no need for you to close it every time, but it's a good habit in coding, okay? So say hello. I am calling my function just to say hello to the world outside of the house, okay? So let's hit save. Going back to our code, let's hit refresh, and boom, now you see it says hello world. So that's just a quick example in what a function can do. Now let me go ahead and show you another thing that you can do with functions. So let's go ahead and add some parameters inside of those curly brackets. So let's say function, and then give me the sum. And this is just me adding a totally random world. I can use sum, or I can say do math, maybe, or something like that. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. I am just going to leave it as sum, okay? But remember, this name right here, it's treated and it follows the same rules as a variable. Okay, so whatever you want to name it here is the same way that you name a variable. Okay, so I want to name it sum, and now in parentheses I am going to say the sum of A and B. Those are going to be my parameters. Now I'm going to open my block here, and in here is where I'm going to tell my code what to do. So I want to console.log A plus B. That's what I want to do whenever I call this function. The next thing we want to do is call this function. Now take a look that this function has a parameter. So how will that work? Well, you can change the parameters inside of parentheses so that it can execute whatever you have set up inside of the curly brackets. So let's say that I want to get the sum of 10 and 9. Okay, I can do that. Give me the sum of 10 and 9. I'm going to hit save. Now if I hit refresh, I get the result here, which is 19. Now let's say that I want to change this and I want to get the sum of 10 and 10. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit refresh. Now it gives me 20. So whatever you input inside of parentheses, it'll be taken by the function and is going to give you a result depending on what you have written inside of the block, right? So in this case, I set up console.log, and then in parentheses, I set up A plus B. So that's why it's returning a sum. If I would have done, let's say, change this for times, so A times B, then the answer is not going to be 20 anymore. It's going to be probably 100. So let me go ahead and save this. I'm going to hit refresh and see how this changes to 100. So whatever instruction you give to your function inside of those curly brackets, that's what's going to perform outside when you call it in the real world. If you do not call your function, your function will not be executed. So if I go ahead and I delete that, I hit save. Now I hit refresh. You see how that's gone? You are not calling your function. So every time you want to use your function, just make sure that you call it. You can also add variables into your functions. I mean, you can also do that. If I want to add a variable, I can simply do function, and then let's give it another name. Let's give sum2, and then I'm going to open parentheses. I'm not going to give any parameters, just so you can easily see how you can apply variables inside of this block. So here we're going to declare, let's say, we're going to make A equals to 10 and B equals to, let's say, 20. Okay, 10 and 20. And then I want to console.log A and B. Okay, we can perfectly do that. We just added some variables inside of the block, and then we want to console.log the results of those variables whenever we call the sum2. Okay, so take a look and see what's going to happen now. If I call sum2, okay, I hit save. Going back to our code, I hit refresh. It gives me the result of whatever I input inside of this function, because I am calling sum2, right? Which is the way I name this function. You can give it whatever name you want, as I said multiple times. So yeah, that's how you use functions. It's super easy. It's not that complex as everybody might have told you it is. It's just the way you see it, right? And the more that you study, the more that you read MDN, the more you will learn. The more you will learn about how to use functions and how they work. But functions overall are very important in JavaScript because they can be recalled at any time. You can go ahead and actually use a function, and it doesn't matter which order you put the function in. You know that so far we have been having sort of like a sequence. Everything that we have been coding so far into JavaScript has been in a certain order in order for it to show on your console. Well, with a function, let's say that I just created function sum2, and then I want to call function sum2 here on top as well. I can perfectly do that with a function. If I go ahead and hit save and I go ahead and hit refresh, now I get the number 30 twice. I can call sum2 as well if I want on the very top before the constant that we created. Let me go ahead and show you right now. Okay, give me 1 second. Let's go ahead and add it here at the top. Okay, and I'm going to hit save. Now I'm going to hit refresh on my code and see how the function sum to its up here. So you can place a function in whichever area that you want of your code, and it'll be called anytime. It doesn't follow a particular order like the rest of the things that we have coded so far. So functions are very cool and are very useful, especially because you can reuse them as much as you want. Okay, so that was it for today's episode. That's what a function is, everybody. Later, in later episodes, you're going to be taking a look at more complex functions as you learn more. But you need to study, okay? Remember, go to MDN, read the articles, make sure to know all the details about functions and how you can use them. And if you have questions, just leave them in the comment section below, and then I will reply as soon as I can, okay? Okay, so that was it for this episode, everybody. I hope you liked it. If you did, remember to give me a thumbs up. That really helps my channel. And remember that you can always ask Lixi. Bye, everybody, and see you again in the next episode.